Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the evaluation race for the first season of TTML Formula 2. My name is Aidan Carter, otherwise known as Car Mentalist. I was the co-coms for last season, of TTL F2. This season, I am not joined by James. I am joined by a new commentator to the TTTV world. Please give a warm welcome, everyone, to Luke Etheridge. Luke, how you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Looking forward to what should hopefully be an exciting F2 race around a circuit where we don't normally see these F2 cars.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the evaluation race, we're not doing a race that's included in the calendar, so this is completely different to any track we're going to see this season, like you say. And yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting. Before I head into a little bit on the rules and regulations for this season, just to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you're new to the TTTV world, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've done a bit of comms before. Some of you might have seen me in a few other leagues. Some of you might have also seen me attempting to drive cars at various points. And then, if you have, you understand why I stay behind the microphone more often than not.
Brilliant. Yeah. So, just going to head into the rules and regulations for the season. So coming into the season, a lot of the rules and regulations from last season have stayed the same. So we are running a 50% feature race and a 50% sprint race with one-shot qualifying, dynamic weather, and formation lap is on, safety car is on, part firm is on, damage is full, and coasting is also on as well. So it's pretty much the same as it was last season. However, we are running a bit of an updated point system. So for the feature race, anyone down to 19th can score a point. So it's 30 for the race winner, 25 for second, 20 for third, 18 for fourth, 15 for fifth, and all the way down to 1 point down to 19th from there on. And the sprint race is the top 15 finishers. So that's 18 points for the win, 15 for second, 13 for third, and 1 point down for each person after that, all the way down to 15th. So that's the updated point system for the season. With the updated point system that we've got, Luke, how do you see that playing out in the season? Do you think we'll see a lot more? Maybe competition through the season because of that?
Yeah, hopefully. Should mean that people always have something to fight for, even if they're way down at the back of the grid. I think the sprint race one could work very interestingly as well, because you're going to get a chance for some of those that maybe finish outside the top 8 in the feature race, because that's normally the reverse grid for the sprint race, and there's usually only 8 people who score points in the sprint race. So I think for those who are going to be ninth and below in the feature race, it's really a good opportunity for these guys to maybe pick up a few more points, and they obviously wouldn't have done. So we might see a few drivers go for a bit more risky moves, because I know if they drop further down the back of the grid, they might still be able to pick up a few points.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously we saw a little bit of a problem last season as well, with people maybe not scoring too well in the feature race in a lobby with about 15 people in it. They would automatically leave the lobby after the feature race because there was not many points available, like you say, for a sprint race. So this is obviously a way of trying to keep people in the lobbies, and giving people more to fight for, like you say. But we're nearly ready to get going for the first one-shot qualifying of the TTML F2 season. Let's see who we're going to be on board with. It looks like we're going to be on board with Synchronizer DJ for the first qualifying session of the season. He's in the MP Motorsport car, so we'll ride on board with him then into turn 1. He's on the super soft tyres. Through turn 1 and 2. Very ginger on the power there, keeping it in third gear. Shipping up to fourth, trying to null the traction on the exit of the corner. Coming down into turn 3. This is obviously the first DRS straight on the track. Coming down into turn 3. Keeps it nice and neat to the inside. Again, very gingerly on the throttle. He's not hitting the rev range. He doesn't want to spin the rear tyres up. Obviously very easy to do in a Formula 2 car. We've already had EVR Sam T and Kausper have both retired from the session by the looks of things. So they've obviously invalidated time somewhere around the lap. Through the first sector then comes Synchronizer. He's currently in 11th place at the moment. Still a competitive time so far, the MP man. It's Honey Badger that leads the way ahead of Scuba and Legend, the top 3 at the moment. Again, very gingerly on the power on the exit of the corner there, coming down one of the back straights, then into the fast left and right chicane at the back of the track. Coming to the end of the second sector. And it's 58.2 by the end of the second sector for Synchronizer. He's currently running at the bottom end of the top 10 at the moment. We've seen a number of people have moments. It looks like Honey Badger's maybe had a spin somewhere in the fast chicane of 11 and 12. He's dropped well down the order, as has Dan Morris as well. Into the final part of the lap, the much more technical part of the lap now. Keeps it nice and neat. Misses the apex ever so slightly. Doesn't use a lot of the exit either. He's, like I said, he's taking it very cautiously, but at the moment it's paying off with a P8 time for the time being. Into the last corner then. Very easy to break traction midway through the corner. Keeps it in third. And then shifts up towards the line then. It's Scuba who's already crossed the line with a 33.4. Brilliant lap time there. Legend is in second. Synchronizer in the end crosses the line in 8th with a 37.5. And a number of people crossing the line with invalidated times.
Yeah, there were quite a few drivers that got it wrong there. I was on board with Honey Badger at the time he lost it, and it's exactly what you said, Aidan. Just took too much of that curve coming through 11 and 12, and it's so easy to unbalance these cars, especially Formula 2 cars. They have nowhere near the levels of downforce and grip that you would get on an F1 car.
Absolutely, yeah. So here is the qualifying order then for the evaluation race. It's a Trident 1-2. So Scuba takes pole position ahead of Legend in second. TTGA Maze is in third ahead of Wesker fourth. Focky fifth. OWR Isotopic is in sixth place ahead of Frunky in seventh. Synchronizer eighth. And those are the only people that set times in the end. So Dan Morris, Bert, Honey Badger, Captain Chubbs, Siege, Graham, Sam T and Calsper all did not set times in that session.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed with themselves. Quite surprised to see so many drivers struggling to set a time. It's not really like a few other circuits where there's plenty of tarmac runoff areas. You do get punished here if you run off a circuit. So surprised that many drivers did end up invalidating, but should be able to make their way up in the sprint race. Australia is not the easiest circuit to overtake on in F1, but in F2 cars should provide a bit more opportunities, especially into turn 1 and turn 3 at the end of those two DRS zones.
Absolutely, and another thing as well to add on to the top of that is the people that did invalidate their times in the session will be able to have a free choice of tyre at the start of the race. So we may see a bit of a mix of strategies for the people from 9th down, and that can definitely benefit people here at Australia because, like you say, it's a difficult track to overtake, so maybe the strategy is the better way to overtake around this circuit. We're about 20 seconds away though from finding out what people have done on the tyres. Just looking at qualifying though, that was a brilliant time from Scuba. Do you see anyone really getting close to him in the race?
I'm interested to see what Honey Badger is going to do. He looked so good at the first part of his qualifying lap. He's the highest placed from last year's TTL F2 Championship. He finished third in the championship. Vic Mill and Blizzard will be racing in the championship, but they aren't here tonight. So interested to see how he does when he tries to make his way up through the grid. He'll just be hoping that he can keep it clean, of course, and maybe he will do something different because it looks like most of the field have actually gone for the medium tyres.
It does look like that, absolutely. It looks like Scuba, then our pole sitter has gone for the super softs, as has Synchronizer in P8 and Graham down in P14. Everyone else on the field has gone for the medium tyres, so it looks like the likes of Synchronizer and Graham are going to have to make their way forward pretty quickly in the early part of this race to try and overhaul some of the medium runners because they're going to run a lot longer into this race. But there's obviously a two-step difference in terms of tyre compound here. It's not a soft medium and it's not a medium hard, it's the super soft tyre. So the super soft tyres are going to go off much quicker than the medium tyres, but I can imagine that the pace difference between the two is going to be massive.
Yeah, you see this quite often in Formula 2. The alternative strategy can be absolutely ridiculous. The one that I always remember was done with the old F2 cars. It was Charles Leclerc. You might have heard of him. He's done okay in F1 since getting promoted. Won a couple of races. But yeah, Bahrain, I think he pitted in the feature race, was way down the back of the field, but he was on 2 steps softer tyres than everyone else and managed to make his way back up ahead of everyone in the space of 5 or 6 laps. In fact, I think Callum Ilott nearly did it at the sprint race in Hungary last weekend. He ended up pitting and nearly made up 25 seconds on Luca Giotto in the space of 5 or 6 laps. I don't think you'll see anything that extraordinary tonight, but if you just go a bit too long on these super soft tyres or on the medium tyres, if they're the ones you are starting on, it can really punish you. So strategy, oh so important in Formula 2.
Absolutely, yeah, and you beat me to the punch with the Budapest one, actually. I was just about to say that as well, that Callum Ilott had a brilliant sprint race last time out in Budapest at the weekend, as did the likes of Nikita Mazepin in the feature race, and obviously Robert Schwartzman, who won the race in the end as well. They obviously went for the alternate strategy and started on the harder tyres, and the power of the softer tyres at the end of the session really helped them. I'm going to push you though, Luke, for a top 3 in this race. Who do you think is going to finish on the podium?
Ooh, I am going to go for, I think Scuba. I'm going to stick with the same top 2. I think Scuba and Legend, but I do think Honey Badger is going to make his way up to 3rd position at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep an eye on Honey Badger then, see if he can live up to the hype, see if he can get away with it. But we are just seconds away then from this first evaluation race of the season for TTML F2. Here we go then, we're just waiting for, I believe that is Isotopic coming into his grid slot. Here we go then, here is the start then of the feature race. It's a Trident 1-2. Which one of the Trident cars is going to get off the line the best? Is it the super soft runners or the medium runner? Off the line they go. It's a fairly even start from the front of the grid, but Scuba gets a much better second phase off the start. Maze looks like he's had a good start as well. He's on the outside into turn 1, and he's gone round the outside, actually, of the Trident car. Scuba, though, has a 1.3 second lead coming out of turn 1 already. He's had a brilliant start. We've had a spinner in the background. Didn't quite catch who that was. I haven't seen who that was in the background, but we've got Maze, and we've got Maze side by side there. Side by side with Legend into turn 3. It looks like Maze is going to keep the place, though. Maze has had a brilliant start, then up to second place. But look at that lead that Scuba's got already. Timing is a little bit glitched. Oh, one of the Univirtuosi cars was round in the background there. I think that might have been Frunky. He looks like he's had a spin on the exit of turn 4. Not sure if anyone else was caught up in that, but he's hit the wall and he's damaged his front wing. It looks like, though, everyone in behind has been able to avoid the Univirtuosi car, and he's going to have to come into the pits. He's on the medium tyres as well. That is such a shame for the Univirtuosi driver, but Scuba out front then, ahead of Maze, ahead of Legend, ahead of Wesker. Honey Badger's already up to 5th. He's had an amazing start from outside of the top 10. Siege as well, another brilliant start for the Damsman. He's up behind Honey Badger. These two have had almost, it seems like, a lifelong battle really in Formula 2. They've been inseparable the last few seasons. Let's see what they can do, if they can work their way forwards, but Scuba then still leads. He's got an absolutely massive lead at the moment in the Trident. This is the perfect start for him. Legend coming back at Maze down the outside. At the end of the straights, kind of try and go all the way around the outside. He's on the curb on the outside, doesn't get the best traction. We've got Frankie, he's round again, it looks like, on the exit of the chicane, and we've got a full safety car already. Wow, so 2/3 of the way around the first lap, and we've got a first full safety car of the season.
Yeah, and that just came a second too late, I think, for Scuba to maybe dive into the pits and get rid of those super soft tyres quite early on. But yeah, he had an ideal start. It's just a shame that that safety car has ruined it for him. It was Isotropic, who went round at turn 1, but obviously this has given him a chance to catch up to the field. We've got Focky and Synchronizer DJ into the pit, so I think Synchronizer, not sure if he's got any damage or whether that is just to get rid of the super soft tyres. Graham stayed out on his, as did Scuba, but yeah, I think Franky's damage just got a bit too much for him in the end to cope with, and the pit stop under a safety car in F2 is much more useful than it is in F1 because the pit stops take a lot longer. They aren't allowed to use as many crew members, so this could really save some of the drivers some time. Surprised Focky pitted. I do imagine that he would have had some damage on his ART, but let's watch to see what Synchronizer can do. He's going to need to keep them tyres in pretty decent condition, though, to do the rest of this race, but this safety car period should help him a tiny bit.
Absolutely, yeah, like you say, Synchronizer's got a massive advantage now compared to a lot of people on the field. He does not have to pit again. 16 laps on the mediums is a tall order in a Formula 2 car, as you say. Traction at the rear of the car can really burn out the rear tyres, especially at this track, which is very traction heavy, but he has got an advantage on the people in front of him, especially the likes of Graham and Scuba, who were still out on the super soft tyres. Luckily for them, no one on the medium tyres has obviously come into the pits as of yet, so they're not really disadvantaged at this point compared to other people around them, except for Synchronizer. Focky's put the super soft tyres on. He obviously started on the medium, so he's had to go into this set of tyres, which is a real shame for him. He's not really going to be able to take those super softs anywhere longer than half distance in this race before he'll have to pit again and put another set of mediums on, but he's at least at the back of the queue when the safety car comes in, and he'll be able to work his way forwards on a fresher set of tyres. But after that first lap, who stood out to you other than Honey Badger, obviously?
Well, I was impressed by after his initial getaway, which was a bit suspect. I think he got caught out by the grip on the medium tyres. Legend managed to recover from that, could have easily got passed by multiple cars on the way down to turn 1. He's had a bit of a challenge at Maze as well, but he's still behind him. So Trident doing well. Scuba, obviously his start was absolutely fantastic, but you'd expect it to be on those super soft tyres. They are going to get up to temperature a lot faster. But yeah, there are quite a few drivers who had pretty decent starts in this race. Got Sam as well. We haven't spoken about him. He actually went up 6 positions, as did Honey Badger, and Calsper went going up 9.
Wow, yeah, just had a look at that myself, actually. Yeah, Calsper up 9 places. Unfortunately, I believe this is just a one-off appearance for Calsper, but it looks like he's already got to grips with these Formula 2 cars very quickly. Up 9 places off the start, like you say. Siege is up 7, Honey Badger up 6, Sam up 6, Captain Chubbs and Graham both up 4 places themselves as well. So a lot of people in the midfield having brilliant starts and making their way forwards. And it's good for Graham as well. Obviously, he's the only real runner at the moment, apart from Scuba, who was started on the super soft tyres, and he's made his way up 4 places already, which is exactly what he needed to do in the early phases of this race. Unfortunately, people further down the field, likes of Isotopic, who spun on the first lap. We had Dan Morris, who's dropped a few positions as well, and then obviously Synchronizer and Focky have pitted, so that's why they've dropped places as well. We should be getting going probably around this. He's actually come back into the pits again, as we've got a spinner maybe behind the safety car.
Yeah, and that was Focky, who's just come out of the pits on the medium tyres, and straight away, of course, he's trying to drive as fast as possible to get around the circuit. Has lost it coming out of turn 2, badly damaged his front wing. he's going to have to head in again, put another set of the mediums on. I was about to say that was a pretty clever tactic, pitting twice under a safety car, but I think all that's gone out the window. He's really going to struggle to catch up to these guys before the safety car comes in now.
Yeah, that is such a shame. He might get an extra lap at the end of this one. We have already crossed the Sector 2 split, and the safety car hasn't said it's coming in this lap, so he's got an extra lap if he can get round to the pits in time. But like you say, that would have been a brilliant strategy call had the mistake not happened coming out of turn 2. He's going to have to replace and put another front wing on that car. He might be running out of medium tyres at this point. He's already run he's run 2 sets already in this race, so he might be running out of medium tyres at this point. Just looking further up through the field as well, if we've got this little safety car period, I'm not sure if my eyes are deceiving me or not, but I think Graham may actually have a little bit of front wing damage. He does actually, yeah, on the left-hand side of the Primus front wing, he has got a bit of front wing damage, so that's a bit of a shame there for Graham. But I am a little bit surprised that neither Graham nor Scuba have decided to come into the pit lane yet.
Yeah, I'm surprised they've decided to stay out. Obviously, they might be thinking just to keep the mediums a bit better shape for longer. You only use... A rule of thumb I tend to use is 2 laps under the safety car equals 1 full racing lap. You're not putting anywhere near the same amount of wear. And actually, I think that's Legend who's actually spun under the safety car. He's now dropped way back to 8th position, and he's missing a lot of his front wing as well.
Oh, another person then that's struggling under the safety car period. Legend has dropped a number of places. Calsper looks like he's had to drop back behind Legend there to not avoid a penalty behind the safety car. But yeah, another person in with a podium shout has dropped the car on the exit of turn 2 and has hit the wall. He's going to have to come in and replace that front wing, and it looks like the safety car probably will be coming in on this lap, so that's a real shame for Legend that he's had that mistake. That's a real shame. In behind, Sam and Graham fighting over positions behind the safety car at the moment. I'm not quite sure what's going on there between those two. It looks like Graham's actually passed Sam behind the safety car. Not quite sure how that's happened, but Graham seems to have got away with it. I'd say about 10 seconds away from finding out whether the safety car's coming in or not. Focky's just left the pit lane again on, I believe, a used set of medium tyres. So he's come back out onto the track with a new front wing and a used set of tyres, and he's kept on the track this time through turn 2. So hopefully he can at least make up some of the time back to the safety car, which is coming in at the end of this lap.
Yeah, he's going to struggle to catch up the queue though, and he's going to be slightly compromised. It was looking really good for him. He won't have put too much use into those medium tyres, because I imagine they will be the same set that he started the race on, and they only did actually manage 1 lap, I believe. We've still got Legend actually now battling with Calsper. I think they're all getting a bit eager to get underway. Scuba is basically the safety car now. He dictates the pace. He's got to let that safety car get far enough ahead, of course. You don't want to catch it up, because I've seen that happen, and the game slams on the brakes for you, and it can cause absolute carnage for those behind. But as soon as it gets into the pit lane, he is free to go racing, and he'll be looking for a good start on those super soft tyres. Yeah,
here he comes then out of the penultimate corner. Here he comes to the last corner as well. He's gone already by the looks of things, and Maze hasn't reacted well enough. Scuba's got a clean bit of space coming down the pit straight then. We've got Wesker is on the safety car restart. He's had a brilliant start in the Arden. Can he get past the Dams driver? Honey Badger's there in 4th as well. Wesker's then to the inside. Maze is much later on the brake, so is still there. They're still side by side. To back off and move there. Oh, and Maze has dropped it on the exit of turn 2. Another person falling foul to the traction on the exit of turn 2, and he's broken his front wing as well. Another man within a podium shout has dropped it on the exit of turn 2, and Honey Badger and Wesker now side by side for P2 on the road. Honey Badger's going to take the inside line for turn 4, but Wesker's got more momentum but hits the curb, and Honey Badger up to 2nd place already. What a start this has been for the ART man. We've had another spinner in the background. I think that might be Isotopic again, and it looks like Sam might be involved in that one as well, as Legends is now leaving the pit lane as well. Focky's jumped Legend in all of that change, but a number of people caught out in the safety car restart, and there is a absolutely massive gap at the moment between Calsper in 6th and Maze in 7th.
Yeah, I think Graham had a spin as well at turn 1. I'm not sure if he was maybe trying to avoid Maze's stricken car, but yeah, that all started. Maze just was a bit slow on the restart. That allowed Wesker and Honey Badger to get right behind, and once again Scoob has been able to get away. 3 seconds the advantage at the moment, but now we'll have to see what Honey Badger can do, because I suspect, even though we've done quite a few laps under the safety car, that those mediums are now the tyres to be on.
Absolutely, and it looks like Siege is trying to get a move on as well. He's trying to follow Honey Badger through. Calsper looking like he's doing the same as well. The Ardens are a bit of a blockage at the moment for these two. Wesker holding up Siege, and it looks like Captain Chubbs is holding up Calsper ever so slightly. Obviously, another reason why Scuba might not have come in is he has to adhere to the pit window. It's from lap 3 onwards, so he can't make his mandatory pit stop before lap 3. but he's on to lap 6 now, and it's the fastest lap of the race. It's our first real fast lap of the race, and it's a 37.1 from Scuba. He's got a 3.1 second gap. Honey Badger not closing in as of yet, but he has dropped Wesker very quickly. It's 1.3 seconds back to the Arden man, who's now under all sorts of pressure from Siege. Can Siege get to the inside for turn 3? DRS is obviously not enabled as of yet, but Kausper in behind with Captain Chubbs. He's looking around the outside. Can he pull that one off? That'd be great if he can. He's on the curb on the outside, gets a little bit loose on traction. Oh, and Captain Chubbs squeezes him to the apex of turn 4. They're still side by side. Great racing between these two. Kausper trying to do the switch back in turn 6. Can he get down the inside? He gets to the inside of the corner, but it's a relatively medium speed corner. He can't out Captain Chubbs into the corner, but they're still side by side. This has been going on for at least 4 corners, but Kausper has now got the place on the Arden man. Captain Chubbs has a look back down the inside, but Kausper up to 5th. A brilliant move from Kausper.
Yeah, but just look how much time that attacking on Captain Chubbs. He wasn't able to get the move done straight away. Great defending from the Arden, I must say, but he's now 1.6 seconds behind Siege. But Siege definitely looks as though he's being held up by Wesker at the moment, who has got himself a time penalty. And Scuba, doing fairly reasonable. That gap to Honey Badger just growing by a 10th or 2 at the moment. Further back, we've got a battle for 7th, 8th as nice as well with Dan Morris, Bert and Synchronizer at the moment. A Synchronizer on those 1 lap fresher tyres won't make too much difference, and he will almost certainly have to stop again, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. He is obviously not adhered to the 3. He's not adhered to the 3-lap pit stop window. He pitted on the end of lap 1, so that's not counting as his mandatory pit stop at the moment. He will have to make another stop, but maybe onto the super soft tyres at the end of the race. Meanwhile, further back, I believe Graham had a spin on the exit of turn 2 and has retired from the race. Unfortunately, that was coming out of the pit lane. Maze, Sam, and Isotopic have all come out of the pits on a set of super softs. They'll struggle to get those to the end of the race. Meanwhile, Bert and Dan Morris are side by side. Bert down the inside in the Carlin. Dan Morris gives him plenty of room. Bert trying to go around the outside. They're still side by side coming down into turn 3, but looks like it's a great exit from the corner from Dan Morris. And Synchronizer trying to make it 3 wide into turn 3 on the outside. That's a risky move from the MP Motorsport man. They get away with it for the time being. Legend, meanwhile, sets the fastest lap of the race. And somehow Dan Morris holds on to 7th. And Synchronizer spins on the exit of turn 4 and hits the wall. That's such a shame for the MP man.
Yeah, there was just a bit of wheel banging between him and Bert in the Carlin, and I think it was inevitable eventually that one of them was going to have to give up. Maybe they should have seen what Captain Chubbs and Kausper did the lap before, because that was definitely how to go side by side for an entire lap. They did fantastically well, and Kausper, you can just see how much Wesker is holding Siege up at the moment, because he's managed to catch right back up onto the pair of these. Siege does have DRS coming down here now towards the final part of the lap, heading towards turn 13, but unless you're right behind the car in front, it's not easy to get past down there. Honey Badger's caught up about a second on this lap though from Scuba, so it wouldn't surprise me if the leader, and indeed he does, the Trident's in the pits.
Into the pits. Honey Badger had a massive moment there in the penultimate corner. He did well to save that, but it looks like he locked the rears on the braking zone into the penultimate corner. He held it very well though. But yeah, like you said, those super softs were starting to go off. Good time for Scuba to come into the pits. He's managed to do nearly a half race distance on a set of super soft tyres. That's much further than he probably would have predicted he could have gone. Let's see where he comes out relative to traffic. He's probably going to be behind Dan Morris and Bert, but ahead of Synchronizer, which is a good gap of fresh air for him to be in. Let's see how far behind Bert he will be. It's probably going to be about 5 or so seconds, so he's got a good amount of clean air to drive into and hopefully build a bit of a gap and try and close in on Honey Badger for when Honey Badger comes in and puts the super softs on. But meanwhile, like you say, Siege and Kausper are being massively held up by Wesker at the moment, but Siege just hasn't got the straight line speed and hasn't got the commitment on the brakes to make the move stick yet on Wesker.
Yeah, Wesker seems to be able to get a good exit out of the all-important corners before they get into DRS zones, and that's what's keeping him the position at the moment, but he's definitely holding these guys up. So you've got to say, even if the strategy works out for Honey Badger and he ends up winning, Scuba looking very hot indeed for a podium. 23 seconds off the lead at the moment. Again, Wesker's now having to go defensive just slightly from Siege, but there's not really a braking zone here into 11 and 12. Siege just be better off concentrating on the exit, and he's not really done that. And you can see Wesker's just able to get away. He's got DRS, so he should be able to defend from Kausper. And we've had another retirement. That is Sam in the Cheroux, who is now out of the race, and I think he's another victim of turn 2.
It looks like it is another victim. Yeah, that's our 5th victim of the race then. That's the 5th spin on the exit of turn 2 we've had, and Sam unfortunately has retired from the race. But yeah, like you say, Kasper looking the faster of the 3 at the moment. He's all over the back of Siege, but again, like you say, Wesker's getting very good traction out of the main traction zones he needs, and it looks like he's got a good fast car in a straight line as well. Siege, even with DRS, can't really get close enough to make a move stick. And the problem with Australia as well, apart from the fact that it's a relatively narrow track with short straights, is that the braking zones at the end of most of the straights are very short. I think Kasper may have just made a little mistake in turn 1 there. He's a little bit close to the back of Siege, and I think he had to back off maybe to avoid contact with the Dam's car. Captain Chubbs is in 5th place as well, running on his own a little bit at the moment, but he's there ready to pounce if any of the 3 cars in front of him make a mistake. Just moving further down the order as well. Scuba's actually caught quite a bit on this previous lap on Burt and Dan Morris in front. I think he's taken nearly 2 seconds out of the gap. So Dan Morris in 6th at the moment and Burt in 7th, being caught massively by Scuba, who is 15 seconds ahead of his teammate Legend in 9th place. Focky's in 10th after making, I believe, is it 3 pit stops in this race Focky's now made? He's made 3 stops in this race and is running in the top 10 at the moment. And Legend is probably going to have to pit again for another set of tyres. Just looking further down as well, Maze running in 11th ahead of Isotopic 12th, and Synchronizer rounding off the finishers at the moment. Like we said though earlier on, everyone that finishes at the moment does get points. Obviously it's only a evaluation race, but if this was the real season, then everyone at the moment would be getting points. Looking at the lead at the front, Honey Badger now has a 6-second gap to Wesker. Have to wait and see where he comes out relative to Scuba, but looking further down the field, Scuba's getting much closer now to the back of Burt and Dan. How do you think he's going to tackle this battle with the 2 cars in front of him?
He can't afford to hang around. He needs to get past them as soon as possible. He's gaining ever so slightly on Honey Badger, but it is only slightly, and we know Honey Badger is going to come out on them super soft tyres and he's going to be absolutely lightning. So I don't think Scuba can afford to hang about. He's just got to try and go for this at the moment if he wants to have any chance of winning this race. But Dan and Burt, this is for position of course, and I can't see them pitting quite yet. He's going to get a good run here on Burt and Scuba, and I think Bert's just said, right, you've got more traction than me, I'll just let you have that position and see if I can fight back later on. But I don't think he's going to be able to do anything. Further up front, though, we've got Siege and Wesker going side by side through 3, and Siege has got that position done. So we'll see if he can now catch up to Honey Badger slightly, because he's been held up behind the Arden for a long time.
Yeah, Siege finally able to make the move on the Arden man, but like you say, it's been there. It's probably about 5 laps too late at this point. Honey Badger is 7 seconds down the road. That's a tall order from Siege to catch up to the ART man, but we'll see what he can do. Can he gap Kalsper as well, who's looking equally as fast as Siege at the moment? Legend, meanwhile, picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's another thing to look out for in this race in case any of the runners in the top 5 get a 3-second time penalty. Kalsper looking close to the back of Wesker, but Wesker's going to run to the inside of the track for turn 11. Not really an overtaking spot, and Kalsper has to wait for the back straight, but he will have DRS. So will Wesker though. He's still within a second of Siege in front. Captain Chubbs meanwhile picks up a time penalty in 5th. Kalsper looking maybe to have a move at the end of the straight, but I don't think it's close enough. And he's going to have to wait another sector for him to possibly make a move into turn 1. But Siege nearly a second ahead already. Burt, meanwhile's past Dan Morris. We've missed Scuba passing Dan. Oh, there's a bit of contact there between Dan and Burt. Burt trying to go side by side through turn 12. That wasn't really going to happen for him, unfortunately, for the Carly man, and he has spun. I think he's got away with no damage, but that was a bit of an optimistic move there from Burt. And Scuba's managed to pass the pair of them very quickly, but I think Scuba's actually got a bit of front wing damage.
Yeah, and Dan has some front wing damage as well, so I'm not sure if that happened at the same time. I think Dan actually had the damage before Burt tried to go side by side with him, and that's why he was so slow through 11 and 12.
We've got another victim of turn 2. Sorry to butt in, but Captain Chubbs has had a spin on the exit of turn 2. He looks like he's got away with no damage, but another person falling foul of that corner and is going to drop way off the back of the battle that he was in. Meanwhile, Kasper still hasn't passed Wesker yet.
I think this is the lap for Kalsper to head into the pits, get rid of those medium tyres, do the undercut, because it's very difficult to overtake when the car in front of you has DRS as well. He's definitely the quicker of these 3 drivers. If he just goes out and doesn't go crazy on those super soft tyres, I think he should be able to get them to last until the end of this race. We've just seen Burt and Legend come in for a set of super softs as well. They are running less fuel, 6 laps should be doable. They won't be in the best condition at the end of this race, but I think if Kalsper wants that podium, he's going to have to pit this lap. You can just see how much he's getting held up behind Wesker. The Siege more than a second ahead now. Wesker picks up another penalty, but again, he's really good through 11 and 12 and just extends that gap, and there's nothing Kalsper can do.
Absolutely, like you say, another lap where Casper just can't get the run through turn 11 and 12, and pitting now is probably going to be the best option for him. Like I said, the tyres may be a bit worse for wear at the end of the race, but the undercut could be absolutely massive here. Let's see if Casper does dive into the pit lane. Honey Badger, our race leaders, into the pit lane. So is Siege from second place. Neither Casper or Wesker come into the pit, so they've both stayed out. That means Wesker's now a bit more vulnerable. We won't get DRS off the car in front. Can Casper make a move into turn 1? He's not gaining a lot in a straight line. Wesker defends to the inside. Casper's going to try and go all the way around the outside of turn 1, but outbrakes himself ever so slightly, and that again is a costly error from Casper, who's now allowing Wesker to get away again.
Yeah, and interestingly, Honey Badger is going to come out almost side by side with Scuba, and Honey Badger is in third place, stays ahead of Scuba. Scuba will have the tyre temperature and have the momentum, but got to say, it's advantage Honey Badger at the moment on those super soft tyres. Scuba might have to send one up the inside here to have any chance, and he's not done that. So yeah, you'd expect him to just drop back from Honey Badger now, who's got to be looking good for this race, but I'm surprised Calsper didn't just do the opposite of whatever Wesker did that time. I'm surprised he didn't come into the pits, because now he's going to find himself a long way behind Siege.
Yeah, definitely that is the case. Luckily for him, he's got about a 12-second gap back to Focky, who's currently in P6, so he's not under pressure from people behind, but like you say, running around doing the same strategy as Wesker's not giving him the advantage at the moment. Problem for Scuba now as well. He's obviously got that little bit of front wing damage. Can he keep a P2 position on the road ahead of Siege, or can Siege close in that 9-second gap to Scuba in these remaining laps and take P2 off of him? Let's have a look, see if the leaders are going to come in as well. Wesker still maintains the race lead at the moment ahead of Casper. Wesker's done a remarkable defensive job so far in this race. He hasn't been as fast, obviously, as the people around him, but nevertheless, a brilliant drive so far from Wesker. Does he come into the pit lane? He does. Casper follows him in, so I wonder whether Casper is maybe going to try and jump him in the pit lane. We'll have to wait and see which one of the pit boxes is closer to the front of the field. Neither of them speed in the pit lane. And they're both actually very close to each other in the boxes, so it looks like Wesker's probably still going to come out ahead of Casper coming out of the pit lane.
Yeah, we'll have to see whether Casper can use them fresh tyres. So that does obviously put Honey Badger in the lead of this race. Scuba goes up to second, and Siege will be in third. Something I could find interesting later on is the battle for that sprint race pole position. It's currently Maze who's got it in 8th place. He's 10 seconds ahead of Burt with 5 laps to go, but he's already done 6 laps on those super soft tyres, so if he does take them to the end, which is his only chance of finishing in the top 8, they are going to be in a very poor state, possibly entering puncture territory towards the end. So it'll be interesting to see whether Burt, or maybe even Dan Morris or Legend, can take that 8th place and get pole position in the sprint race. And Calsper, yeah, he has still come out behind Wesker. In fact, he's lost a tiny bit in that pit stop phase.
Yeah, he has. And look at the gap now between Wesker and Siege. 1 lap for Siege extra on those super soft tyres, and he's already built a 4-second gap to Wesker. And Siege is taking, at the moment, about a 1.5 seconds a lap out of Scuba. That's not quite enough to take second place off of the Trident Man, but obviously his front tyres are going to be wearing out a little bit more than usual with that front wing damage. So look out for Siege maybe on the final lap to have a go at Scuba for second place in this race. But like you say, the battle for the reverse first grid pole position for the sprint race is between Maze, Burt, Dan Morris and Legend at the moment. It looks like Burt is catching Maze, but not quick enough at the moment, but those super soft tyres are going to be right at the end of their life. Calsper, meanwhile, picks up a 3-second time penalty on the exit of turn 12 by the looks of things, trying to catch up to the back of Wesker. Again, he's still not close enough to the back of the Arden man. He must be getting sick of the back of that Arden, but he has been stuck there since pretty much the start of this race. Further in behind, we'll have a look down the rest of the field. Captain Chubbs, after his spin, running on his own at the moment in P6. Still a good result from the Arden man, who's ahead of Focky in 7th after 3 pit stops, running in 7th place. Good recovery from him. Mason's in 8th ahead of Burt, 9th. Dan Morris 10th. Legend right behind him in 11th. Synchronizer 12th after his crash early on in the race. And Isotopic rounds off the drivers at the moment in P13. Looking at the front of the field, though, look at the gappers. Oh, Wesker! Is that another person that's fallen foul of turn 2? No, it's the exit of turn 1. Wesker's off the road on the exit of turn 1 and he's out of the race.
I'm wondering if there's been contact, because that is a weird place to retire. There's no damage on Calsper's car, so he's now free to have a go at Siege. But yeah, that is a weird place for your car to end up with terminal damage.
That is a very odd place for Wesker to go off. That somewhat saves Maze as well. He's jumped up now into P7, so at the moment it's going to be Bert who's on reverse grid pole in the Carlin car. I noticed one thing as well, previous seasons and in previous races I've done in Formula 2 races, the gearboxes can go very quickly on these cars, so I wonder if there wasn't any contact between Kasper and Wesker. Maybe Wesker's damaged his gearbox at some point and there might have been a gearbox failure on the exit off on the end of the straight, and that's why he's ended up out of the race, which is such a shame for the man running in P4, was doing a brilliant job, and he's now unfortunately out of the race and at the back of the field for the sprint race.
Yeah, I have seen that happen at a few other circuits as well, but it's tended to be Spa and Monza, circuits that are a lot heavier on the engine and the gearbox than here, but that is very possible if he's been revving the car a bit too much out of the corners, just ruining the gearbox. These F2 cars can be very temperamental. When they were introduced into F2 in 2018, all the drivers seem to have problems getting them underway. They are quite difficult to drive, but yeah, Honey Badger seems to have tamed them at the moment. 7 seconds in the lead as Dan Morris picks up another 3-second time penalty. Siege now in third. He's closing in on Scuba. He's about 4 seconds behind at the moment with 3 laps to go. Going to be very close at the end. He'll be hoping that he can get within DRS range in the next 2 laps, because that could make a difference as to whether he's on the second or third step of the podium.
Absolutely, like you say, yeah, he's really starting to close in the gap. Another person starting to close in the gap is Bert. Bert has managed to bring the gap down between him and Maze to down 5 seconds. I don't know whether Maze has maybe made a mistake somewhere, but that's about 4 seconds in about a lap and a half that Bert has caught the Dams man, and he's dragging Dan Morris and Legend with him at the moment. So Maze's P7 is not safe at the moment. He could lose 2 places to Bert and Dan Morris, and that would pop him out of reverse grid pole position, or the front row at least at this moment. Looking further up as well, Focky looking safe in 6th place ahead of Captain Chubbs in 5th. Kasper, after being released from the back of Wesker, hasn't closed in on Siege, so he's not really got the pace at the moment to catch up to the 3rd place man, who is now only 3.5 seconds behind Scuba.
Yeah, and even if he did end up catching up, I'm just having a quick look at the penalties. Kasper does have 1 3-second penalty. Siege has got 2 warnings. Scuba's kept it completely clean at the moment, and Honey Badger does have a 3-second penalty as well, so that wouldn't change anything for the top 4 drivers, but it does mean that even if Kasper does get ahead of Siege, he's going to have to get 3 seconds ahead of him, which with 2 laps to go isn't going to happen. So I think he's just settling for 4th place now, and hopefully he'll be able to show his pace off in the sprint race, but he's just got another couple of laps to keep it clean, and Honey Badger with a net 6-second lead after his penalty with 2 laps to go. I said he might get on the podium. I think he's had a bit of luck with some of the incidents and the safety cars, but you can't argue he's driven absolutely so superbly so far. It
has been a brilliant result really for Honey Badger. Last season for Formula 2, in Formula 2, TTL Formula 2, last season we've had another person retire from the session. That's Legend, who's gone off the road now in the 3rd sector. I don't know whether that is with contact as well, or whether that was a spin on his own, or whether he's had maybe another problem, maybe similar to Wesker. But yeah, Honey Badger in the early part of the season last year on the previous game, he kind of lost his form. He won the season previous to that, and then came into the season with new challenges really in the likes of TTG Toxic, and of course our eventual champion CLG Blizzard. And Honey Badger kind of lost his way early in the season. The second half of the season he was back to his old ways, and he was winning races quite regularly, and it looks like he's carried that momentum on into the evaluation races, nearly 10 seconds ahead of Scuba now, who's only got a 1.8 second gap to Siege. Siege is going to be within DRS range on the last lap by the looks of things. He's just about going to be close enough. I was actually looking in the chat as well. It looks like, according to Wesker, that he had an engine problem, so that is probably something to do with the gearbox by the sounds of it, that's maybe failed on the end of the pit straight.
Yeah, and it looked, by the way, that Legend was as well, that he's had the exact same problem. So we are down to just 11 runners. Isotopic keeping it going in last place at the moment. Siege just a bit too far behind to get DRS, but he will get it into turn 13. Honey Badger, or as Bolts has decided to call him, the F2 Sweat. He's not having to worry about any of that at the moment. It's just going to be nice and serene, and with the pace he's shown in this, wouldn't surprise me if he ends up on the podium as well. But he got a bit lively there through turn 4. Maybe just be a bit careful on those 5-lap-old super soft tyres. You see how easy it is to spin one of these cars.
Yeah, we have seen it already so far, and Honey Badger's had a fair share of moments already in this race, but still, great car control from the ART man. It's been a pretty dominant performance in the end. Siege, it's 1.2 seconds. We're going to ride on board with Siege for the last lap. Just see whether he can get within DRS range coming out of turn 12 and whether he'll be close enough. Of course, the front wing damage for Scuba is going to make him really struggle. Meanwhile, Maze has fallen out of reverse grid pole by the looks of things. He's on 11 lap super soft tyres, and Maze has kept those going without a puncture, but he's fallen behind both Burt and Dan Morris now, who are back together again. And Dan Morris trying to go for a move into turn 3 on the Carlin man, who slightly outbrakes himself. He's going to try and get the switch back on him. Does he get the better run out of the corner? Looks like Dan Morris is going to steal P7. He does. 2 places in the space of 2 corners, and Dan Morris is up into P7.
Yeah, great move from him. I was on board with Mace just coming through the final corner. He has got absolutely no grip on his front tyres. He's understeering so much through the medium speed corners. He's going to have to be so careful on traction. Thankfully for him, doesn't have to worry about anyone else behind. And Siege definitely closing up to Scuba. Honey Badger has taken the win, but Scuba's going to just hang on to second position.
Yeah, greatly held there from Scuba, considering the front wing damage and tyres. Good for him to hold on to second. But yeah, Honey Badger takes the win in the end in dominant fashion in the end. 8.9 seconds. He wins the race from Scuba ahead of Siege in third. Casper picks up fourth. We're waiting for Captain Chubbs, who's had a bit of a lonely race so far, but he'll come through to finish P5. Good result from the ART man as he comes around the last corner. Sorry, the BWT Arden man. I'm getting all my teams mixed up already, but he crosses the line. He's picked up front wing damage somewhere as well, but he's got away with it and comes home in P5. Focky, after 3 pit stops, is going to come home in P6. Great recovery from the ART man after his incident behind the safety car. Here he comes across the line, 14 lap old medium tyres. As he crosses the line, it's going to be Dan Morris then that takes 7th ahead of Burt in 8th. Do they swap positions based on time penalties? They do, so Dan Morris drops to 8th. So Dan Morris is going to be on reverse grid pole then. Actually, no, never mind. Maze is going to steal it by 0.5 of a second at the line. Amazing for Maze, considering how old those tyres are, that he kept it within touching distance of Dan Morris, and Maze steals reverse grid pole in the dying seconds of the race.
Yeah, we're pretty delighted with that. He's done well to hold on, because that probably means as well he will have a fresh set of super soft tyres left for the sprint race, of course. You don't want to be in a situation where you're having to start on the mediums, because you will lose a lot of time. We've had Synchronizer come through to round out the top 10. And Isotopic, he had a few spins in that race, but he managed to keep it going, keep all the wheels on his car, keep his gearbox and engine in good condition. He comes through as the 11th and final finisher, but it's Honey Badger with a fantastic victory here. That'll put him in good stead for when the actual season starts next week. But before that, we've got the sprint race, and he'll be hoping to get a double podium at least, maybe even a double win with the pace he showed there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely on the cards for him. He might have a little bit of competition in the likes of Casper, and Siege will obviously be in front of him on the grid. But yeah, it's Honey Badger then that takes the first win of the TTML season. He takes the feature race win then out Australia by a comfortable margin in the end from 11th on the grid. Brilliant stuff from Honey Badger. It's Scuba then that crosses the line in second from pole position. Not quite able to have the pace in the end to win the race, but still a good result from Scuba. It's third place for Siege on the podium from 13th on the grid as well. So both Honey Badger and Siege gaining 10 places in that race to get to the podium positions. Casper 4th ahead of Captain Chubbs in 5th. Focky in 6th ahead of Burt in 7th. Maze takes reverse grid pole for the sprint race in 8th place ahead of Dan Morris in 9th. Synchronizer 10th. Isotopic rounds off the finishes in the race in 11th. It's Legend, Wesker, Sam T, Graham and Frankie who did all not finish the race. 2 of them with mechanical failures. So at the end of that race then, I'd say probably Honey Badger's my driver of the day, who for the feature race at least. Who would you say is your driver for the feature race?
I mean, I don't think I can really argue with that, but I suppose I should go for someone different, and I think I might go for... I'm going to go for Maze just because of how well he held on those tyres, because I know he's dropped quite a few positions after that mistake he made earlier on, but it takes a lot of skill just to keep them tyres in the right pace. If you go too slow, obviously, to try and save the tyres, you're just going to lose all the temperature and lose all grip and then make more mistakes and actually end up wearing them out more. So he's done well, and he's got a reward for this sprint race. It looks like it's going to be a very overcast sprint race as well. We'll see how he does this time from pole position. And maybe a few of those guys, like Legend, who looked fairly fast when he had a chance, Siege and Casper as well. We'll get to see what they can do in this sprint race as well. Will they maybe be able to take a victory?
Absolutely, there's a number of people that could take this one, and obviously with it being overcast, it is possible that weather could interfere in this race. We could see some rain maybe later on in the race, but at the moment it is just overcast for the time being, which will obviously help a lot of people with tyre temperatures and tyre wear. Obviously the tyre temperatures will be down with the track temperature being down, so a lot of people are going to be able to maybe make the mediums last bit longer in this race than they did in the first one. Just looking in the chat as well. Thank you everyone, by the way, for commenting on the stream. Keep your comments coming in. Let us know how you're enjoying the race. Let us know your favourite drivers so far. But May's coming in and saying that his tyres were on 85% at the end of the race. He's incredibly lucky not to get a puncture.
Yeah, incredibly lucky indeed. I'm just looking at some of the tyres now that everyone's on. In fact, it says everyone's starting on the medium, so that's interesting for the sprint race. I mean, they will definitely last the 12 laps, so it's probably actually a good idea to be on those medium tyres, although given the last race, Mays can make the super softs last that long as well. We've seen got Louis Welsh here. I think a few drivers in this race could have done with his pad traction skills coming out of turn 2 there. That was not ideal for all these drivers, and on these mediums in these overcast cooler conditions that might actually be even more of a problem in this sprint race. Obviously it is a lot shorter. They shouldn't need any pit stops that it is a sprint. They do tend to be a bit more chaotical than your standard feature races, but I think that feature race pretty much had anything, so I don't know how the sprint race can add any more to that, but I'm sure these drivers will find a way.
Absolutely, yeah. If the sprint races from last season are anything to go by, we are in for an absolute treat. We had some of the best sprint races last season. I believe one of the sprint races last season at Baku was a photo finish really between Blizzard and Toxic. Some of you might have seen that race last season. That was was in the sprint race, and that was an amazing race to watch. A number of people had brilliant sprint races last season as well. And we've had a few double winners so far last season as well. I believe Honey Badger took a double win. I know Toxic and Blizzard both took double wins as well last season. So it can be done. Just coming round then into the third sector, I'm going to push you for a top 3 in this race just based on the pace we saw in the feature race. Who do you think is going to come home with a podium in the sprint race today? I'm
going to go for Calsper, Siege and Honey Badger.
Very safe top 3 then. Definitely, that is definitely a good shout. I would say I'm probably going to agree with you with Calsper. I think he's got definitely good pace. I think at the end of that race last time, the end of the feature race, it looked like he just kind of consolidated P4. So I think Calsper for the win. I say Honey Badger in second, and I think I'm going to go for Scuba in third. I think Scuba's got some pace that we obviously didn't really get to see at the end of the feature race. So I'm going to go for him for third on the grid, or third on the podium. Sorry.
Yeah, I think another man who could get high up there was a bit of a dark horse. We didn't really see anything from Focky in that race because of the 3 pit stops he made earlier on, so who knows what he could do, and he spent most of the race on those medium tyres, so that'll be very interesting. We're just waiting now for Frunky to round out the grid. Him and his Univirtuosi Graham in the Prema rounding out the grid. These are the 2019 cars, of course. 2020 cars not in the game yet, and they will look slightly different with the bigger tyres. But for now, the lights are coming on here for the sprint race in the evaluation F2 race here at TTML. They're off and we are underway here. It's a fairly even start from the front row. Mays getting just a better start then by Bertie. Focky's shot up. He's going to try and go all the way round the outside through turn 1, and he's able to do that. So Focky stays in second position for now. It is in the lead of this race. It is Mays getting away at the moment. There's plenty of battling going on behind at the moment. We've now got one of the Tridents trying to go up the inside. In fact, that's Calsper going all the way round the outside of Bert. So he's up to third place. He's had a good start as well. He doesn't want to get stuck behind anyone in the early stages of this race. It looks like everyone has managed to get through the first sector cleanly this time. In fact, now Bert starting to come under pressure from the Trident of Scuba slightly. He's dropped a couple of places, just gets a bit sideways there, and Calsper's right on the back of Focky as well. But it's Mays, Focky, Calsper, Bert, Scuba still the front 5 at this moment, as now Scuba tries to go all the way round the outside, looking very confident at this point in the race, and he makes that move stick coming through turn 10. Siege and Honey Badger have managed to get ahead of Captain Chubbs as well, but a much cleaner start than the feature race. But once again, we've had a driver escape at the head of the field. This time it is Mays.
Yeah, Mays has had a brilliant start. I think he actually made a little bit of a mistake coming through turn 8. We've got a spinner somewhere in turn 12. That's Sam T, who spun in the middle of the chicane, unfortunately. Doesn't look like anyone else is involved. Are they 3 wide in the background? They were. Siege, Bert and Honey Badger all 3 wide, and Captain Chubbs capitalises on Honey Badger running wide at the exit of the corner. Up into 7th place. Honey Badger not had the best of starts. He's still in place at the moment. Oh, it's like Bert and Siege came together there in the penultimate corner. We've got one of the Univirtuosi cars sliding across the grass in the penultimate corner. That'll be Frunky that's managed to slide across the grass and get away with it. But it's Mays that leads at the end of the first lap ahead of Focky and Calsper. Scuba in 4th. But look at the gap the top 4 have got to Siege in 5th place at the moment, as Captain Chubbs is going around the outside of Bertie at turn 1. There's a little bit of contact, and Honey Badger's going to capitalise on that and pass. Is he going to try and pass the inside the Captain Chubbs. Here he goes into turn 3. Does he have the run? There's 2x2x2 in the background. Honey Badger has a little bit of a front lock on the way into the corner. Locks up into the side of Captain Chubbs, but Captain Chubbs holds on to the place for the time being. Meanwhile, in the background, Isotopic looks like he's had another spin. He has on the exit of turn 4. He's spun around. I think that might have been maybe from a little bit of contact from, I think maybe Bertie, it looks like it might have been, who's just been shuffled out of the way, unfortunately, there by Synchronizer, and he's been passed by Dan Morrison. He's actually spun as well after contact with Legend, I believe, so completely shuffled out and is spun on the exit of the corner, unfortunately. But at the front of the field, the top 4 have got away cleanly so far.
Yeah, top 4 getting away cleanly, taking advantage of all this chaos behind them. They will have DRS next time around. Calsper's just hanging on the back of Focky at the moment. Scuba still there as well. I'm sure Siege will be trying to catch up. I think when Honey Badger tried to overtake Captain Chubbs actually for 6th place, he had all 4 wheels locked up and nearly drifted into the side of the Arden. There won't be Arden when the 2020 update comes in. That will be HWA race lap, but for now we've still got the BWT Arden.
Sorry to cut in. Casper went for a move at Focky at the penultimate corner and just locked the rear tyres and couldn't get the move stuck, but he's got much more pace, and Focky understeers coming out of the last corner. He's moving on him slightly down the straight, trying to break the momentum that Casper has. And look at the straight line speed Focky's got. He's got brilliant straight line speed in that ART. Back ahead coming down into turn 1, but Casper sends it on the brakes into turn 1 and he's made it up into 2nd place.
Yeah, I think Scuba just actually ran out of road there to try and make it 3 wide as well, and Siege, he's not too far behind. He might be best just sitting back here because Calsper, that move looked a bit desperate. In fact, they've both run right after Calsper, and Focky and Scuba's managed to get ahead of the ART, but Siege wasn't able to follow, so he's now got an ART in front of him, an ART behind him as well, and of course all that battling means Maze, he's got out of that all-important 1 second window in these dams. He's currently 1.1 seconds ahead, so if he can keep that coming through 11 and 12, he will not give Calsport the DRS, but he definitely looks quick in that Univirtuosi at the moment, but he might be thinking too much about defending this time around from Scuba. Focky, you've got Siege now right on the back of Focky as well, so we've got a battle for 2nd and a battle for 4th place at the moment. Calsport was a bit slow there through the entrance to turn 11, and I think that just caught Scuba out ever so slightly, and Focky's just stayed ahead of Siege for now, and that straight line speed definitely helping him out. This could be another few laps, a bit like the start of the feature race, where Siege is just stuck behind a car who's better in a straight line. Yeah, it does look like at the moment that I think we've had Funky spin. Yeah, Funky spun on the exit of turn 12, unfortunately, and has hit the barriers, and he'll be out of the race. Oh, there's a safety car as well for that as well. So safety car in the sprint race. Are we seeing anyone dive in? We do. Siege is coming into the pit lane. Is he going to put a set of the super soft tyres on, I wonder? Looks like with one of the cars further back, that's Isotopic. He's quite far back, so the safety car is going to be out for a little bit. And Siege has decided to take a gamble and gone for the super soft tyres. But this is going to drop him at least outside of the top 10 at this point. Yeah, I think if that would have been a lap or 2 later, I think that could have been absolutely fantastic for him. But yeah, he's going to drop way down the field. Isotropic does have... He has actually been into the pits for the medium tyres already after damaging his front wing earlier on, so he will stay ahead of him. Wesker and Sam coming in as well. I mean, if you're at the back, you've got nothing to lose from this. So we'll see how it works for Siege. He'll have 9 laps to do on those. I'd imagine at least 2 of them will be under the safety cars. 7 laps seems fairly reasonable, I'm sure, on a light fuel load for these super soft tyres. So if this works out, he should pretty comfortably take the win. We'll just have to wait and see. But we've got a Dams leading the race anyway in Maze, and now we've got a Dams for lead super soft runner as well. So looking good for the French team. It definitely is, yeah. I think this is probably not the situation Maze needed, though. He had about an 8/10 gap before the safety car came out. That gap of little as what it was, it's been completely eroded by the safety car now. But like you say, we've seen though Siege really struggling to make overtake stick so far. It took at least 5 laps for him to get past Wesker in the feature race, and he was struggling to get past Focky there as well. So Siege is going to have to maybe change his driving style a little bit. He's obviously got the super soft tyres on, which will help him, but he's just not that confident on the brakes at the moment to make moves stick. So we're going to have to see something a bit special from Siege to maybe work his way back up the field again. Having a look further up the field, it looks like a number of people have had pretty good starts. Synchronize has gained a number of places, I believe. So has Legend. He's up into the top 10 already, as is Graham. A number of people gaining a number of places. Let's see how many places people have actually gained. Yeah, Graham's gained 5 places in this race. 4 for Scuba up to 3rd. He had a brilliant open phase of this race. Both Honey Badger and Synchronizer and Legend as well have all gained 3 places in this race. Yeah, taking advantage. I'm sure of a few drivers pitting, and I think Dan Morris nearly headed into the pits there. I'm not sure you gain anything right now because you would definitely drop right back to the back of the field. I'm not sure whether Scuba just got ahead of Kalsper there, but he has let him back past. Safety car staying out. I think this could well be the last lap.
Kalsper spun behind the safety car. He's dropped it on traction on the exit of turn 1, coming into turn 2. We've had another turn 2 victim, and it's this time second place man Kalsper has dropped all the way to the back of the field in 11th behind the safety car.
Yeah, similar to what we saw Legend do in the last race. We saw how much that cost him, but yeah, he's down to 7th place. Sam is in again. He's changed to another set of the super soft tyres. So if he can catch up the back of the pack, he could look really good later on in this race. Isotopic has gone off as well, actually. Coming out of the penultimate corner.
Yeah, he's got damage to his front wing. Yeah, so he's going to come in and probably put the super soft tyres on. He'll have maybe another lap of the safety car to catch back up. The safety car usually stays out for about 3 laps, and we're on our second lap at the moment, so he should be able to catch up just in time. He's coming in, and is it a set of super soft tyres? It is, and a new front wing as well, obviously, for the Carlin man, so he should be able to catch back up to the back of the field. But yeah, absolute disaster for Kalsper, who's completely dropped it behind the safety car, and that's gifted Scuba a second place and a run at Maze for the race win.
Yeah, indeed. Focky and Honey Badger, 2 ARTs, are now 3rd and 4th position. We'll see. Yeah, safety car is staying out for another lap, so that will give Sam time to catch up to the field, and that will mean his tyres might just be a bit more up to temperature than some of these other drivers. It's going to be a bit hard, I think, for Isotopic to catch up, so that could be interesting. See what Sam does. Did it go well for him in the feature race? He was one of many victims of turn 2, and he's had a bit of damage in this race as well, in the lone Shrew car tonight. We'll be interested to see how he does. Wesker, we saw him defend for his life in the first race. He's now down in 13th, and he's going to have to attack for his life if he wants to make his way up. But I think this extra lap under the safety car is definitely going to help those guys on the super soft tyres, especially Siege and Wesker with that 1 lap older ones than everyone else. The problem is for Siege, he's got Kalsper up ahead of him, and we know how feisty he can be when he wants to attack in this race. Going to have to see if he shows similar elbows out when he defends. He's well entitled to. He's going to have to as well on those medium tyres to try and keep Siege behind him. I'm sure he'll be desperately frustrated in the cockpit of that Univirtuosi after that mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And you actually took the words out of my mouth there, that while Siege will be happy that maybe Kalsper has dropped further down the field, this is a bit of a problem for him, because he was probably expecting maybe not too much of a fight with the likes of Graham and Legend and Dan Morris in front of him. He has a definite pace advantage over these guys at the time of the safety car coming out. But obviously Kalsper, one of the front leading people in terms of pace in this race, has dropped into the position right in front of him. So Kalsper's probably going to defend pretty hard against Siege, and that's really going to affect the way that he moves through the field. Same for Wesker as well. We've had Burt come into the pit lane. He's got a set of super soft tyres on. Sam's come into the pit lane again. I don't know if he's had a spin somewhere maybe behind the safety car and picked up some damage, but he's come back out onto the track on another set of super soft tyres. So he's got a little bit more time to catch back up as well. It's going to be nip and tuck as to whether he can catch the back of the queue before the safety car comes in. Also depends on how slow Maze decides to drive once the safety car decides it does want to come into the pit lane. But at this point, who do you think's going at this point in the race? Who have you got your eye on?
I've got my eye on Siege. I do think that extra lap has just helped, and he won't have to worry too much about the tyres. Now, it could all depend on how quickly he gets past Kalsper. Maybe just hanging back slightly from the Univirtuosi as he passes another car. I hope as it goes a bit wrong, and maybe try and get 2 cars in one manoeuvre. They won't have DRS for the next 2 laps either, so that could maybe save some of these drivers on the medium tyres if they can just get a good run out of some of the corners, because I think Kalsper doesn't seem to have the straight line speed of some of these guys. But anyway, it's Maze. He's very close actually to the back of the safety car, so he's going to have to slow it right down, and he doesn't want to do that too much, otherwise Scuba, Focky and Honey Badger could be all over the back of him.
Yeah, he's kept very close to the safety car. He's kept a high speed. Oh, and he's ruined the traction on the exit of the final corner. But obviously, Scuba, no one can pass before the start finish line. So Scuba's now going for a move down the inside of Maze into turn 1. Maze makes a mistake at the crucial point in the race. Scuba's already attacking into turn 1. They're 2x2. The ART's in behind as well. Focky and Honey Badger trying to go round the outside of his teammate. That's Focky actually running onto the grass. Unfortunately, he's been shuffled out by a number of people. We've got one of the Tridents on the grass. That's Legend that's made a mistake. Oh, Captain Chubb sends it down the inside and runs into the side of Honey Badger. Gets away with it by the looks of things. We've got Kalsper up into 8th. He's made his way past. and actually up into 7th. He's had a brilliant restart. He's up into 7th already. Siege hasn't made any progress forward as of yet, but he's looking to make his way past Graham, which it looks like he has done. Honey Badger as well, down the inside of Maze.
Oh, contact!
Oh,
Kalsper's around.
oh,
I think it was Synchronizer who might have hit him.
Oh, a number of people involved in that. Great. Yeah, Synchronizer's hit the wall again. Kalsper, Burt looks like he was involved in that as well. Wesker looks like he spun but got away with no damage. But yeah, a lot of people involved. That's put Siege up into 7th, but Siege is 3 seconds off the back of the queue in front of him at the moment. But yeah, Honey Badger, meanwhile, in all of that chaos, has made his way past Maze, and so has Captain Chubb. So Maze has been absolutely swamped at this safety car restart. Honey Badger up into 2nd and chasing down Scuba. The top 2 from the feature race is now the top 2, but in reverse in the sprint race.
Yeah, we'll have to see whether Honey Badger can close the gap. Just before the safety car came back in, we had Sam retire. He's really not enjoyed these F2 cars around Albert Park. He actually crashed out coming on the way into the penultimate corner before the safety car had come in. He was pushing on those super softs just a bit too hard. It'd be interesting to see maybe how fast some of these guys can get past Captain Chubbs, because I don't think he's got the outright pace maybe of some of the drivers behind him, and all this battling might help Siege catch up ever so slightly. He's got that gap down to less than 2 seconds at the moment, but once he does catch up to all of these guys, he's going to have to be decisive but clean. It's a very difficult skill to manage.
Absolutely, and obviously at the moment everyone, well, almost everyone really from Maze down is running within DRS range of each other, which will help them defend from Siege behind. But yeah, Siege has taken in the last about lap and about last half a lap, it's nearly half the gap really between him and Focky, so he's nearly within DRS range of him already. It looks like Maze is struggling for pace at the moment. He's dropped out of DRS range of Captain Chubbs, and he's under all sorts of pressure now from Dan Morris and Focky, who didn't get the best of safety car restarts, so he kind of got shuffled out by his teammate of all people. Speaking of his teammate, Honey Badger, he's within DRS range at the moment of Scuba. It's 9/10 of a second. He's just within DRS range, but that means when it does come out, he'll be right on the back of the Trident Man. We've had a spinner in Sector 1. I think that was Isotopic who had a bit of a moment on the exit of Turn 3. Captain Chubb's in 3rd at the moment. He's running around once again on his own like he was in the feature race, up in 3rd. He's had a good start, good sprint race so far. Dan Morris only 3/10 back from Maze. Is he close enough? No DRS as of yet. Not close enough to make a move down the end of the straight, and he stays in 5th place for the time being. But look at Siege already on the back of Focky. It's less than 6/10 of a second coming into the last sector of the track, but we know Focky's incredibly fast in a straight line, so Siege just maybe going to have to make his move somewhere else on the track. Legend looks like he's trying to keep up with these guys in front as well. Wesker's starting to catch Legend as well. Wesker obviously on the super soft tyres, as well as Bertie behind. Kalsper trying to recover as well in P11. He got away from all that chaos with no damage by the looks of things. He's running in 11th. He's on the back of Burt for 10th place. Can he get down the inside of turn 1? Again, Kalsper struggling for straight line speed. He's not closing in at all, but he's so late on the brakes into turn 1. He nearly had a thought of a move down the inside. Does he go for the inside maybe into turn 3? We've got Siege and Focky meanwhile side by side. Oh, and there's contact in front. Dan Morris loses it. I don't know if there was contact maybe between Dan Morris and Focky, but Dan Morris got very sideways in turn 3. That slowed Focky up, and Siege has passed the pair of them, and he's up into 5th place already.
That's exactly what he needed, and maybe if these Dams guys are communicating, they are both part of TGG, might be the best for Maze just to let Siege by, because Siege definitely the quicker driver on the quicker tyres as well at the moment. He needs to get ahead. He's 7 seconds behind the lead of the race with 3 and a bit laps to go, so I think the win is out of the question, but there's definitely a chance for a podium here. Honey Badger was half a second faster than Scuba on the last lap. He is within DRS range now, but the dirty air does seem to be a bit stronger on F1 2020 than it was on the last game, so might have to be a bit more patient than he would have had to have been last season. Scuba there locks up quite badly actually into turn 13, and that allows Honey Badger to just close up ever so slightly. But yes, that incident between Focky and Dan Morris has actually allowed Legend now to catch right up onto the back of Focky in the other Trident. We've got one lead in the race, one in 7th position at the moment. It's still incredibly close, obviously, because of the safety car. Top 8 separated by just over 10 seconds.
Yeah, Honey Badger as well, feigning to the inside for turn 1, maybe trying to force Scuba into a little bit of a mistake, but look how close he is through turn 1, basically pushing the Trident Man through the first 2 corners. He's looking for a double win in the evaluation race. It would be a great way to start the season for Honey Badger, but he decides against going for a move down the inside of turn 3, tries to get better traction, actually makes a little bit of contact with the Trident Man, and good sportsmanship there from Honey Badger. He lets Scuba go. Meanwhile, Siege has made his way past Maze. Actually, they're still fighting. Maze is trying to come back at him around the outside of turn 4. He's going to have the better run. They're going to be side by side for risky from the two Dams cars. Maze is definitely not moving out of Siege way. He wants to keep that 4th place. Siege is going to have the outside for the next corner. Great racing between the teammates, but this is really holding Siege up in his chance for a podium. He actually hits the grass, and this is going to allow Focky back through. Is Focky going to try and take the pair of the Dams cars? They were fighting very hard against each other. Focky trying to go around the outside. Can he pull that move off? It looks like he might be able to. Siege is there to capitalise as well. Here comes Legend from nowhere. He's caught these guys as well. Right on board, they're 2 by 2 coming into the chicane. This is going to end. This is going to end probably very badly. Legend going down the inside of the two Dams cars. Maze holds on to 5th. Siege has actually ended up the worst out of that one. Has dropped back down into P7. And Focky makes his way back up into P4.
Yeah, we've got Wesker on the back of these guys as well. He's in 8th and he's on those super soft tyres.
He's going to the inside.
As well, in fact, yeah, Siege just ran slightly wide, and that's going to allow Wesker to get down the inside. Whether he'll be able to hold it off or not, no. Siege goes all the way around the outside. He'll have the inside for the next corner. But yeah, I think if that had been an actual championship race, we would have seen a bit more teamwork between the two Dams cars. But still just fighting on their own for a bit at the moment, and you can see how much it costs them because they've dropped well back behind Captain Chubbs, who with 2 laps to go, he's actually looking pretty good for a podium at the moment.
Honey Badger
in 4th.
Sorry to cut in. Honey Badger this time round. He thought about it the last lap and didn't go for it. He's dived it down the inside of turn 3 this time round. He's going to go all the way around the outside of turn 4, but he's caught on the curb. Does he get the best traction? He does. He makes his way past Scooper, and Honey Badger's into the lead with 2 laps to go in this race. Honey Badger takes the lead off Scuba at turn 3 with a very clean move in the end.
Scuba's lost it. Sorry, Aiden. Scuba nearly lost it there. He did well to hold that, actually. Under braking, but you can see he's just dropped back by more than a second now, and that could be any chance he had of getting that 1st place back. Just touched the grass on the approach to the breakings over turn 6. Managed to hold the car, but that could well secure Honey Badger's 2nd win of the evening.
Wow, that's great stuff from Honey Badger, and that's a shame from Scuba. Like you say, drops out of DRS range now of Honey Badger, and any chance of coming back at him is kind of shot at this point. Meanwhile, this battle for 4th extends from Focky all the way down to Burt in P10 at the moment. There's a massive queue forming behind the 2nd ART man. It looks like Cowspur's looking very racy behind Siege. Maybe Siege's super softs not at the best performance state at the moment. He's starting to fall back into the clutches of the people behind. Cowspur has a look down the inside, but is not really going to do anything about it. He stays in behind. But Focky holding on to P4 very well with that straight line speed. He's able to defend pretty easily. And Maze is making little mistakes here and there. Cowspur looking to the outside of the penultimate corner. Can he pull that one off? He's going to get caught on the curb on the outside, but have the inside for the last corner. Does he have the better traction on the exit of the corner? He does. Great move from Cowspur. And he's back up into P8.
Yeah, he's in a very eventful race. He's just going to try and fight back. They've all got DRS, of course. We might have just reached that point now, I think, where the mediums and the super softs are about the same level in terms of tyre performance. So. Sorry
to cut in. Focky has a bit of a moment on the exit of turn 2. Here comes Maze back down the inside for P4. Oh, he forces Focky onto the grass in the braking zone for turn 3. Oh, and there's contact further back. Cowspur trying to go for a move on Wesker. Ends up hitting the side of Legend. But I think they get away with it with no damage, and Siege is forced onto the curb on the outside of turn 4. Here comes Spurt down the outside of turn 5, but he understeers off the track. He's not going to be able to make the move stick on Siege, but it's getting a bit chaotic now in this battle for 4th place. Maze takes 4th, then ahead of Focky in 5th. Legends is in 6th, but Cowspur's all over the back of him. He's looking to the outside, but that's not really going to pull off. Does he look to the inside? No, he's not late enough on the brakes to make a move up into P6, but great recovery from Cowspur so far. Staying on board with Focky. Can he get close enough to get back at Maze down the back straight, coming into the final sector now of the race? What a brilliant sprint race has been, full of action. We've had half the race covered up by a safety car, but it's still provided a lot of action, and it looks like Maze is just going to hold on for P4 for the time being. Focky's got great straight line speed, but he's not close enough to make a move on the Dams man. But we'll go on board with Honey Badger as he comes around the last corner. Honey Badger then 2 wins on the evening. He wins both evaluation races. What a great way to start the season for Honey Badger. He puts his stamp on the championship battle, but Scuba actually passes him on penalty. So Scuba in the end does take the win away from Honey Badger. Captain Chubbs then crosses the line in P3. Maze is going to hold on to P4. Look at Legend in behind Focky for P5. And it looks like they're going to stay in the same place. Cowspur 7th. Siege jumps up to 5th, though, because everyone in front of him, bar his teammate, had a time penalty. So Siege, in the end, steals 5th at the end of the race.
Yeah, Burt managed to jump ahead of Cowspur and Wesker as well. So he's actually gone up to 8th. Cowspur 9th, Wesker 10th. We've got Isotronic just coming around final corners now. He will finish in 11th. And then we'll have Synchronizer and Dan. Great job from Honey Badger in the end. He'll just be ruining that penalty. He'd have loved to start with 2 wins in the end. He won't mind too much, though. He did cross the finish line ahead on track both times around. He was the highest placed finisher in last year's championship in this race. He looks as though he's carried that form onto this game. But great performance from Scuba as well, getting a second and a first, so the same as Honey Badger. And Captain Chubbs as well. He's had a very, very good couple of races. A bit quieter than some of the others, but I think it was 5th in the feature race and a podium here. You can't be too annoyed at that. It's been a great performance from him in the Arden.
Yeah, definitely a very good performance of Captain Chubbs. Maybe not quite the pace of the people in front, but very decisive moves, and he's kept it very clean in both races, and he's come away, like you say, with good results in the end. But it is Scuba that takes the win on penalties. Honey Badger won it on the track, but Scuba takes the win in the end. He makes up for the damage that he received in the feature race, and he wins the sprint race in the end. Good stuff from the Trident man, but we will run you through the sprint race order before we wrap up the stream today. So it's Scuba then in the end who wins the sprint race from 7th on the grid of ahead of Honey Badger, who started 8th, finishes 2nd in the end. Captain Chubbs takes 3rd in the race in the BWT Arden ahead of the 2 Dams cars of Maze and Siege, 4th and 5th. Focky takes P6th ahead of Legend in P7th, Burt 8th, Kausper 9th. Wesker rounds off the top 10. Kind of a 2 races of what could have been really for Wesker. He had very good pace, but obviously the problem in the first race and then being caught out with penalties and the super soft tyres in the sprint race has really kind of nulled his results in both races. Isotopic takes P11 ahead of Synchronizer 12th, Dan Morris in 13th, the last of the finishers. Graham, Sam and Frankie unfortunately all did not finish the race, but that is the end of the evaluation races. Out of the 2 races, who would you say was the driver of the day really from both races?
I think I'm going to have to go for Honey Badger. He won the first race out on track. He won the second one on track as well, but that 3-second penalty just costed him. He was fantastic. Recovered from a bad qualifying. He was looking like he'd qualify on pole position as well, but he made that spin, started down in 11th for that. I had to start in 8th in the sprint race. He did well, but Scuba's definitely going to be one for challenging him. And we've, of course, got to see what the top 2 from last year did. Vic Mill and the current reigning champion, CRG Blizzard. We'll have to see once they get back into it, but it looks as though Scuba and Honey Badger will definitely provide a challenge.
Absolutely, and obviously those 2 not turning up for the evaluation races, if they do end up seeing the evaluation races, they might be a little bit worried by both Scuba and Honey Badger's pace. Honey Badger's brought some great momentum into this season, and it's definitely been the fastest man so far in both evaluation races, and obviously Scuba brought in some good races as well. But before we round off the stream today, we're just going to run you through what the calendar is going to look like for the season. So the calendar for this season follows the championship for what it was for the 2019 season in Formula 2. So looking at the calendar, the first race of the season will be at Bahrain this time next week. Then it's the Spanish Grand Prix. Then it's the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Then Austria, Britain, Hungary, Belgium, Italy, Russia and Abu Dhabi rounds off the championship at the end of the season. That's 10 races then over the next 10 weeks for the Formula 2 season. Just going into the Formula 2 season though, Luke, apart from Honey Badger and obviously Scuba, like we've said so far, is there anyone else you think that stands as a possible title contender?
It'll be interesting to see how some of the drivers did. Siege looked very quick in all the races, but unfortunately things didn't go to plan for him. I know Kausper's only doing a one-off tonight, but maybe if a seat opens for him, he could probably not win the championship, but definitely have a say in the way it goes if he reserves in any of the races. They're 2 drivers I'd love to see more from. And I think we might see a few drivers get a few surprise wins. I think maybe Captain Chubb showed in that if he just gets it right in the feature race, manages to finish perhaps around about 6th, 7th or 8th, he could definitely have a say in the sprint races, maybe pick up a few victories in that, and you never know. If you just keep it consistent, score well in the feature race and manage to get podiums and wins in the sprint race, you can almost win the championship by stealth and not be the quickest driver.
Exactly, like you say, consistency is key. That's how Blizzard won the championship last season. He didn't win every race of the season, but no matter what happened in a feature or a sprint race, he managed to finish within the top 5 in pretty much every race of the season. So that's how he ended up taking the title last season. Maybe we'll see something similar today. Thank you very much, Luke, for joining me today in Co-Coms. Obviously, it'll be me and Luke for the entire season. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you everyone for commenting. Thank you again to Luke for joining me today. That's where we're going to round off the stream. We will see you this time next week. We will see you this time next week for the Bahrain Grand Prix, the first official round of the season. Tune into TTTV tomorrow as well. We have some evaluation races happening tomorrow. I will be commentating over Division 3 alongside TTG Conti. That's who's commentating over Division 3's race tomorrow. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next week. From myself and Luke, goodbye.